The quantum transmission crackled through the void, its message dire. Final outpost fallen, guardians extinct, galactic darkness imminent. Commander Orella Vantis jerked awake, her neural implant buzzing with urgency as emergency systems brought the cryostasis chamber to life. She gasped, lungs burning as they remembered their purpose. The hibernation fluid drained around her, leaving her shivering in the dim blue light of Earth's last deep space vessel, the Astral Horizon. "Status report," she croaked, throat raw after 87 years of suspended animation. "Quantum distress signal detected," replied Iris, the ship's AI. "Origin, Andromeda Coalition headquarters. Message integrity fragmented. Date stamp 3 days ago." Orella stumbled from her pod, muscles protesting after nearly a century of disuse. Through the viewport, an unfamiliar galaxy sprawled before her, their destination, reached while she slept. But instead of the thriving civilization they'd expected to find, something was terribly wrong. "Wake the others," she ordered. "Priority sequence Alpha." As Iris roused the crew, Orella reviewed the mission parameters that had sent their vessel across intergalactic space. Humanity, young, reckless, barely spacefaring by galactic standards, had been contacted by the Andromeda Coalition 30 years before launch. The message had been simple. The Coalition needed human ingenuity to combat an existential threat. They'd sent coordinates, technology, and a plea. Fleet Admiral Kaslo Drek was the second to emerge, his weathered face contorting as consciousness returned. The tactical genius had been Earth's most decorated commander before volunteering for this one-way mission. "We're too late," he muttered, studying the fragmented transmission data. "Whatever happened here?" "We don't know that," Orella countered. "The transmission is incomplete." Dr. Pella Nim joined them, still dripping with cryofluid, her cybernetically enhanced eyes whirring as they adjusted. The xenobiologist immediately began analyzing atmospheric readings from nearby worlds. "The biosignatures are all wrong," she announced. "Massive extinction patterns across multiple systems." By the time the remaining crew awakened, Engineer Razik Voss, Security Chief Lyria Morse, and Communications Specialist Elio Villar, a grim picture had formed. The coalition of 37 advanced species had fallen to something they called the void. Their last hope had been humanity, a species too primitive to be targeted but possessing a unique psychological profile, relentless determination in the face of impossible odds. "They sent the coordinates of a weapon," Kaslo explained, projecting a star chart. "Something they couldn't use but believed we could." Lyria scowled. "What kind of weapon can't be used by a species thousands of years more advanced than us?" Elio, fingers dancing across communication arrays, paused. "Perhaps not a conventional weapon. The translation algorithm suggests something more conceptual. AAA." Sudden explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed as Iris announced, "Unknown energy signature detected. Hostile craft approaching." Through the viewport, a vessel materialized, obsidian and angular, absorbing rather than reflecting light. "They've found us," Razik whispered, Orella's jaw set with determination. "Humanity has never backed down from a fight, even one that isn't ours. Iris, power up all systems. The Coalition sent for Earth's help, and even if we're late, we're still answering that call." As the crew scrambled to battle stations, the enemy vessel unleashed a pulse that seemed to distort reality itself. The Astral Horizon shuddered, but held. Kaslo looked at his readings in disbelief. "Impossible! Our shields should have failed." Pella's eyes widened. "It's us. Something about human physiology is disrupting their technology." The revelation hung in the air as the crew exchanged glances. They were trapped in a dying galaxy with an enemy that had vanquished civilizations far greater than humanity's, yet somehow they were the last hope standing. The astral horizon trembled as it executed. A desperate, evasive maneuver, narrowly avoiding another reality-warping blast from the void vessel. "Their weapons affect space-time itself," Razik shouted from the engineering station, his hands flying across holographic interfaces. "Each hit degrades our structural integrity at the quantum level." Orella gripped her command chair. "Caslow, options?" The EOS admiral studied tactical displays with practiced calm. "Whatever immunity we possess is temporary. We need distance to understand what we're dealing with." "Iris, plot a course through the debris field," Orella ordered, pointing to a sprawling graveyard of derelict ships ahead, the remnants of a coalition fleet. As they plunged into the mechanical necropolis, Elio worked frantically to decode more of the fragmented transmission. "I've isolated another data packet," he announced. The coalition was fighting something they called the nullifiers, entities that exist partly outside normal space-time. "That explains the weapons," Pella noted. "They're not destroying matter, they're erasing it from existence." The horizon wove through skeletal remains of once mighty vessels, each larger and more advanced than anything humanity had built. The pursuing nullifier ship moved differently, not flying so much as phasing through space, leaving distortion waves in its wake. "I've got something," Lyria called from security. She had accessed a partially intact coalition database from a nearby wreck. The nullifiers were discovered when the coalition began experimenting with dimensional folding. They tore through from somewhere else. They don't just want territory, they're converting our universe's energy into something they can use. "So this is a resource war," Caslow muttered. "No," Pella interjected, eyes fixed on biological data. "It's an immune response. Our universe is rejecting them like an infection, but they've evolved countermeasures. They're adapting." A jagged piece of debris scraped against their hull as Orella ordered a sharp descent beneath a massive derelict. Warning lights flashed, but the pursuing ship temporarily lost their trail. "What about this weapon?" Orella demanded. "What were we sent to find?" Elio's expression changed as new data filtered through his station. "It's not a weapon exactly. The coalition discovered that certain neural patterns, specifically the way human minds process paradoxes and contradictions, generate a field disruptive to nullifier physiology. That's why they sent for us," Razik realized. "We're literally toxic to them." The revelation hung heavy as they drifted deeper into the graveyard. Pella accessed a sealed laboratory module on one of the coalition ships, downloading research. Data. "The effect strengthens with numbers," she explained. "A single human mind barely registers, but thousands together would create a barrier the nullifiers couldn't penetrate." "There are only 6 of us," Lyria pointed out. "7," came a new voice. They turned to see a figure in the shadows of the bridge, the final crew member they hadn't revived, quantum physicist Dr. Marin Voros. She stepped forward, her expression grave. "And we have the amplifier." "You weren't authorized for early revival," Caslow challenged. "I bypassed protocols when I detected quantum disruption patterns," Marin explained unapologetically. "While you were engaging the enemy, I've been analyzing their structure. The weapon isn't something we use, it's something we build." She projected a complex schematic. "Using coalition technology and human neural templates, we can construct a device that amplifies our cognitive dissonance field exponentially, creating a zone where the nullifiers can't exist," Orella finished. A violent impact shuddered through the ship. They'd been found. "We need to reach the Coalition's research facility on Nexus Prime," Marin insisted. "All the components we need are there." Orella made her decision instantly. "Razik, maximum thrust. Everyone, secure for emergency acceleration." As the astral horizon burst from the debris field, 3 more nullifier ships converged from different vectors. The crew braced as reality itself seemed to bend around them. "They recognized what we are," Pella whispered. "They know why we're here, And in that moment, humanity's last representatives understood the terrible truth. They weren't just fighting to save an alien civilization, they had become the final hope for the entire galaxy. Nexus Prime loomed before them. Once the crown, jewel of Coalition research, now a ghostly sphere wrapped in unnatural darkness. Orbital platforms drifted lifelessly around the planet, their lights extinguished. The astral horizon limped toward its destination, battle-scarred but intact after a harrowing chase through the system's asteroid belt. "Those nullifier ships should have overtaken us," Caslow observed, studying sensor readings. "They held back." "They're learning," Marin replied grimly. "Adapting to our presence. Our advantage diminishes by the hour." Orella addressed the crew gathered on the bridge. "We have one shot at this. Iris has identified the research facility's location from Coalition. Records? Dr. Voros will lead the ground team to recover the amplifier components while the rest of us defend from orbit. The facility's power signature is minimal but present," Razik reported. "Some systems remain operational." Pella completed her equipment check, her expression troubled. "We still don't fully understand what we're building. The Coalition data refers to it as the Paradox Engine, a device that leverages human neural architecture to generate a field of conceptual impossibility, which apparently gives these nullifiers the equivalent of a migraine," Lyria added, checking her pulse. Rifle Elio looked up from his station. "I've decoded more of the transmission. The Coalition discovered that while their logical, ordered consciousnesses were vulnerable to nullifier influence, human minds, with our contradictions, intuitive leaps, and emotional reasoning, create patterns the nullifiers cannot process. We're walking paradoxes," Marin confirmed. "Our capacity to hold conflicting ideas simultaneously without resolution creates cognitive dissonance fields that disrupt their existence." The landing shuttle detached from the horizon with Marin, Pella, and Lyria aboard, beginning its descent toward the facility. As they penetrated the atmosphere, the true devastation became clear. A civilization extinguished not by conventional destruction, but by something more insidious. Buildings stood intact but empty, technology functional but abandoned. "It's as if they just ceased," Pella whispered, scanning for biosigns. The shuttle touched down in a vast plaza before a structure of impossible architecture, angles that seemed to shift when viewed directly, materials that absorbed and emitted light simultaneously. The Coalition's Dimensional Research Hub. Inside, emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as the team moved through corridors designed for beings with different proportions. Lyria took point, weapon ready, while Pella deciphered directional markings and Marin consulted facility schematics. "Central laboratory should be 3 levels down," Marin directed. As they descended, subtle changes in the environment became apparent. Surfaces displayed microscopic patterns that moved when not observed directly. The air carried particles that seemed to exist between states of matter. "This place was dedicated to dimensional boundary research," Marin explained. "The very walls contained quantum uncertainty chambers. They reached the central laboratory, a cavernous space dominated by equipment that defied human engineering principles. At its center stood an incomplete structure of crystalline material arranged in patterns that hurt to look at directly." "The Paradox Engine prototype," Marin breathed. "They completed more than I expected." As they approached, screens flickered to life, displaying Coalition script that Iris translated through their neural links. "If you are receiving this, you are humanity's emissaries. We have failed. The nullifiers cannot be defeated through conventional means. They exist partially outside our dimensional framework, making them immune to our weapons. But you are different. Human consciousness developed isolated from galactic community, creating unique neural architecture. Where we evolved toward perfect logic, you embraced contradiction. Where we sought order, you found strength in chaos. Your minds naturally generate patterns the nullifiers cannot process. Complete our work. The schematics are embedded in this message. With the engine, 6 human minds can generate a field equivalent to billions, enough to reclaim this galaxy. The message ended abruptly. Pella moved to a console, interfacing with Coalition technology through adapters built into her gloves. "I'm downloading the complete schematics," she confirmed. A shadow passed overhead. Through the transparent ceiling dome, they watched as a nullifier ship positioned itself above the facility. "They found us," Lyria warned, raising her weapon. Their comms crackled with Aurella's voice from orbit. "Multiple nullifier signatures converging on your position. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. We need to disassemble the prototype and transport key components," Marin decided. "The rest we can fabricate aboard the Horizon." As they worked to disconnect the intricate crystalline lattices, the air grew heavy with unnatural pressure. Shadows began moving independently of light sources. "They're manifesting physically," Marin warned. "The barrier between their dimension and ours is thinner here." Lyria fired at a darkening corner where space itself seemed to fold inward. "How much longer?" "Almost," Pella began, before crying out in pain. A tendril of darkness had wrapped around her arm, spreading like corruption through her neural implant. Her eyes rolled back as Coalition data flooded her consciousness. "Cut the connection!" Marin shouted, reaching for the interface cables. Lyria fired into the darkness, creating momentary gaps in the encroaching void. Marin severed Pella's connection and caught her collapsing form. "Did we get enough?" Lyria demanded, continuing to fire as more tendrils emerged. Pella's eyes fluttered open, now swirling with complex equations. "I saw it," she whispered. "I understand now. The engine doesn't just amplify our consciousness. It transforms it into a dimensional constant." "Is that good or bad?" Lyria grunted, reloading. "It means we're not just fighting them," Pella answered, struggling to her feet. "We're rewriting the laws that allow them to exist here." Above them, the nullifier ship began emitting a beam that distorted the very fabric of the dome. They had minutes at most. "Take what we have and go," Marin ordered. "I'll download the rest. And follow." Lyria and Pella gathered the components and staggered toward the exit as reality warped around them. Behind them, Marin worked furiously at the console, her fingers flying across alien interfaces as darkness closed in. The battle for the galaxy's survival had truly begun, and humanity's unique consciousness was the only weapon left. 3 more. "Nullifier vessels approaching from the dark side of the moon," Kaslo reported, his voice steady despite the dire circumstances. The astral horizon maintained geosynchronous orbit above the research facility, weapons systems primed. On the bridge, Aurelia watched tactical displays with growing concern. "Any word from the ground team?" "Intermittent signals only," Elio replied, manipulating communication arrays. "Something's interfering with transmissions, dimensional distortion patterns similar to what we encountered during the initial attack." Razik looked up from engineering stations. "Hull integrity at 72%. Our shields won't withstand another direct hit from their primary weapons." The shuttle's transponder suddenly pinged on their sensors, ascending rapidly through Nexus Prime's atmosphere. Pursuing it was a churning mass of darkness that defied conventional physics. "Defensive pattern Sierra," Aurelia commanded. "Target that anomaly and fire when ready." The Horizon's energy cannons discharged, lancing through space. Where the beams struck the darkness, reality itself seemed to ripple and tear. The anomaly paused momentarily, but continued its pursuit. "Shuttle, report status," Kaslo barked into the comm. Lyria's voice crackled through, punctuated by static. "3 aboard. Components secured. Dr. Voros stayed behind, buying time." Aurelia's hands tightened on her chair. "Prepare docking bay. Medical team standing by." The shuttle weaved erratically as it approached, the darkness following like a predatory shadow. The Horizon's defensive systems fired continuously, creating a corridor through which the smaller craft could approach. "They're not trying to destroy the shuttle," Razik observed. "They want what's inside." The moment the shuttle docked, Orella gave the order. "Jump to emergency coordinates, now!" The astral horizon engaged its quantum drive, ripping through space-time. In a maneuver that would have been suicide near planetary bodies under normal circumstances. The ship shuddered violently as dimensional stresses threatened to tear it apart. When they emerged from the jump, a gas giant with swirling purple clouds filled their viewport, temporary shelter within its electromagnetic storms. In the medical bay, Pella lay unconscious, neural implants pulsing with alien data patterns. Beside her, Lyria received treatment for exposure to dimensional radiation. Only Marin's fate remained unknown. "What happened down there?" Orella asked softly. Lyria winced as nanomeds repaired cellular damage. The nullifiers were manifesting physically. Dr. Voros, she realized they were tracking the components specifically, said she would create a diversion. "She sacrificed herself," Kozlo concluded. "No," came Pella's weak voice as she regained consciousness. "Not sacrificed, transcended." Her eyes opened, revealing pupils that fractured light into impossible spectra. "I can see it now. The coalition data, combined with my xenobiology training. I understand what we truly are to them." She struggled to sit up. "The nullifiers aren't just invaders, they're transformers. They convert all matter and energy into dimensional constants, compatible with their native realm. But human consciousness generates patterns that create instability in their conversion process. That's why they targeted advanced species first," Elio realized. "Logical, ordered minds are easier to convert." "Precisely," Pella confirmed. "Our chaotic cognition, our ability to function through contradiction and paradox, it's like a virus to their system." Razik helped her to a workstation where she projected the schematics recovered from the facility. "The paradox engine isn't just a weapon. It's a dimensional anchor. When activated by human minds, it can stabilize our reality against their intrusion. With Marin gone, we're down to 5, Kozlo pointed out grimly. "Not necessarily," came a voice from the communication console. A fractured hologram formed, Marin's face distorted but recognizable. "Marin!" Orella exclaimed. "How—" "No time," the physicist's projection interrupted. "I uploaded my consciousness into the facility's quantum network before it collapsed. I exist. Differently now. But I can still help construct the engine." "You transcended physical form," Pella whispered. "Partially," Marin's hologram confirmed. "I'm transmitting complete schematics. But there's something else you need to know. The engine requires a sacrifice. When activated, the human minds connected to it will be fundamentally altered." Silence fell across the bridge. "Altered how?" Orella finally asked. "Our consciousness will expand beyond conventional dimensions," Marin explained. "We'll become like them, beings of thought rather than matter, but anchored to our understanding of this universe." "We'll cease to be human," Kozlo translated. "We'll become the antithesis to their existence," Marin corrected. "The ultimate paradox, being simultaneously bound to physical laws and transcending them." From the viewport, they watched as the gas giant's storms intensified unnaturally. The nullifiers had found them again. "How long to construct the engine?" Orella asked. "With the components we recovered and the Horizon's fabrication capabilities, 12 hours, Razik estimated. Marin's hologram flickered. "We don't have 12 hours. The nullifiers are converging from across the galaxy. They've recognized the threat we represent." Orella stood, decision made. "Then we make our stand here. Humanity's last act in this form will be to save a galaxy that isn't even ours." As the crew prepared for the final phase of their mission, the gas giant's atmosphere began to darken with unnatural shadows. Beyond, space itself seemed to fold as nullifier ships gathered by the dozens. The last hope for the galaxy now rested on 6 humans and their unique, paradoxical minds, the final equation in a cosmic calculation for survival. Deep within the astral horizon's secondary hull, Razik oversaw the frantic construction of the Paradox engine. Engineering drones reconfigured coalition crystal lattices, while fabricators produced intricate interface components designed to bridge alien technology with human neural patterns. "The dimensional calibrations are impossible," he muttered, hands flying across holographic diagrams. "We need greater precision than our systems can manage." The translucent form of Marin hovered nearby, her consciousness transmitted as a quantum signal. Adjust the resonance frequency to match human alpha wave patterns during paradoxical thought experiments. The interference creates stability. Across the ship, preparations continued with grim efficiency. In the medical bay, Pella supervised the installation of neural interface nodes on each crew member. The delicate circlets would connect their minds directly to the engine. "The process will start gradually," she explained to Orella as she affixed a circlet to the commander's temples. "First, our consciousness will expand into the engine's matrix. Then, when all 6 minds synchronize, the dimensional anchor will stabilize. And we'll stop being human," Orella said quietly. Pella's modified eyes flickered with complex calculations. "We'll become something greater. Consciousness without conventional limitations, but retaining our human perspective. The perfect counter to the nullifiers." On the bridge, Kaslo and Lyria maintained defensive positions as the swarm of nullifier vessels surrounded them. The gas giant's atmosphere had darkened entirely, consumed by their presence. "They're not attacking," Lyria observed. "They're containing us." "They fear what we're building," Kaslo replied. "Look at their formation. It's designed to prevent escape, not to destroy us." Elio worked frantically at communications, establishing the quantum network that would link all crew members to the engine. Neural synchronization protocols online. Marin's consciousness is acting as the foundation matrix. The ship shuddered as reality distortions intensified around them. Through the viewport, they could see space itself developing fractures, boundaries between dimensions weakening as the nullifiers gathered strength. "Energy buildup detected within the nullifier fleet," Iris announced. "Pattern suggests coordinated. Dimensional collapse in approximately 43 minutes. They're preparing to convert this entire sector," Marin's hologram explained, appearing on the bridge. "Once they reach critical mass, they can transform all matter and energy in this system to their dimensional constants." "Is the engine ready?" Orella demanded. "Final calibrations underway," Razik's voice came through comms. "But we have a problem. The power requirements exceed our reactor's capacity." Silence fell across the bridge. The Coalition facility had dedicated dimensional power sources, Marin noted. "We don't." Kaslo studied tactical displays, a plan forming. "What about the nullifiers themselves? Could we harness their energy?" "Theoretically." Marin's form flickered as she processed the possibility. "Yes, their dimensional distortion field contains immense energy. If we could invert our shields to channel rather than repel that energy." "We'd only get one chance," Razik warned. "Shield inversion would leave us completely vulnerable." Orella made her decision. "Do it. Position us at the center of their formation. Let them think we're surrendering." As the crew prepared for their desperate gambit, Pella completed the neural interface installations. All 6 crew members were now connected to the engine's matrix, with Marin's disembodied consciousness serving as the central node. "I'm detecting unusual neural activity," Iris reported. "Human consciousness is beginning premature synchronization." Pella rushed to the monitoring station. "It's the proximity to the nullifiers. Their presence is accelerating our transformation." Throughout the ship, crew members experienced flashes of expanded awareness, momentary glimpses beyond conventional perception. Walls seemed transparent. Time flowed visibly around objects, thoughts manifested as tangible patterns. We need to harness this, Orella realized. Everyone to the engine chamber will complete the synchronization there at the moment we capture their energy. The astral horizon moved deliberately toward the center of the nullifier formation. Shields powered down in apparent surrender. Around them, the enemy vessels began a complex repositioning, creating a perfect containment sphere. In the engine chamber, the crew gathered around the crystalline construct. Its lattices glowed with internal light, responding to their presence. Interface connections at 97% synchronization, Elio reported, his voice oddly distorted as his perception began shifting between dimensions. Kaslo's military discipline maintained his focus despite the disorienting sensations. Nullifiers moving into optimal formation. Energy readings climbing. On my mark, Orella commanded, feeling her consciousness expanding beyond her physical form. 3, 2, 1, now! Razik activated the inverted shields. The ship's hull became a conductor for dimensional energy as the nullifiers unleashed their combined power, not to destroy, but to convert. The horizon shuddered violently as reality itself seemed to fold inward. Channel everything to the engine! Marin's voice echoed strangely, simultaneously coming from her hologram and from within their minds. The paradox engine's crystals absorbed, the massive energy influx blazing with impossible light. The neural interfaces on each crew member flared, connecting their consciousnesses not just to each other, but to the fabric of space-time itself. Orella felt her awareness expand exponentially. She could perceive the structure of atoms, the flow of quantum fields, the underlying patterns of reality. Around her, her crewmates underwent the same transformation, their minds unfurling across dimensions while remaining anchored by their human perspectives. Through this expanded perception, they could see the true nature of the nullifiers, beings of pure pattern, converting the ordered structure of this universe into something compatible with their existence, and they could see how their own contradictory consciousness created disruption in that pattern. Complete the synchronization, Marin's presence guided them. Embrace the paradox of existence. As their minds fully connected through the engine, 6 human consciousnesses merged, yet remained distinct, unified, yet individual. The ultimate contradiction that the nullifiers could not process. A shockwave of conceptual impossibility radiated outward from the astral horizon, engulfing the IEA nullifier fleet. Where it touched their vessels, the dimensional invaders began to unravel, their very existence rejected by the laws of reality as reinforced by human consciousness. The crew of Earth's last vessel had transcended their physical forms to become the guardians of a galaxy not their own, wielding the power of human paradox against the void. And the battle for existence itself had only just begun. The astral horizon drifted through the remains of the nullifier fleet, not wreckage in the conventional sense, but reality fractures slowly healing themselves. Where mighty vessels had once loomed, space-time now rippled with echoes of dimensional conflict. Inside the ship, transformation continued. The paradox engine pulsed with energy that defied classification, neither matter nor radiation, but something between and beyond. Connected to it, the crew existed in multiple states simultaneously, physically present, yet consciousness expanded beyond conventional limits. Status report, Orella requested, her voice resonating strangely as it traversed dimensions before. Manifesting as sound. Nullifier presence in this system neutralized, Kaslo answered, his military precision unchanged despite his altered state. But I'm detecting similar dimensional distortions throughout the galaxy. This was just one battlefront. Through their expanded awareness, they could perceive the true scale of the invasion. Thousands of nullifier clusters systematically converting entire sectors, working inward from the galaxy's rim. The coalition's fall had been nearly complete. There are survivors, Pella observed, her consciousness extending through remnant coalition communication networks. Pockets of resistance in shielded enclaves, millions hiding in dimensional bubbles, hoping to outlast the incursion. They've detected our victory here, Elio added. I'm receiving transmissions. They're calling us the Paradox Ones. Razik studied the engine's fluctuating patterns. The transformation is stabilizing. We're becoming permanent dimensional constants ourselves, anchors reinforcing the natural laws of this universe. Not just anchors. Marin's presence flowed around them, her consciousness now fully integrated with the quantum network. Guardians. Each of us can extend the paradox field independently now. Orella contemplated their situation. 6 humans, the last of their kind in this galaxy, transformed into beings that existed between states of reality. Their mission had changed from survival to salvation. We need to reach those survivors, she decided. Show them how to replicate the engine. There's more, Lyria interrupted, her security-focused mind having analyzed defensive possibilities. I've identified the nullifier's point of origin, a dimensional tear near the galactic core. Their reinforcements are still coming through. A plan formed in Orella's expanding consciousness. We divide our forces. 3 of us will contact the coalition survivors, teach them to create engines of their own. The other 3 will take the horizon to the dimensional tear and seal it permanently. The ship won't survive a journey to the core, Razik warned. The gravitational stresses alone. The ship is just a vessel now, Orella reminded him. We've become something more. They understood the truth of her words. Their human bodies remained, but their consciousness had transcended physical limitations. The neural interfaces had become conduits rather than restraints. I'll lead the team to the core, Orella continued. Kaslo, Marin, you're with me. Razik, Pella, Elio, find the survivors and spread the knowledge. As preparations began for their separate missions, coalition transmissions continued flooding in from across the galaxy. News of the nullifier's defeat had sparked hope among species who had believed extinction inevitable. They're organizing resistance now, Elio reported, emerging from hiding to reclaim their worlds. Too soon, Kaslo cautioned. Without paradox. Protection. They're still vulnerable. Then we'd better move quickly, Orella decided. Before separating, the 6 gathered one final time around the engine. Their shared consciousness created a moment of perfect understanding, beyond words, beyond physical expression. Humanity's last mission, Pella mused. To save a galaxy we barely knew existed. Not the last, Orella corrected. The first of our new existence. The 3 departing crew members disconnected from the ship's engine, their personal paradox fields maintaining their transformed state. As they prepared to venture into the stars directly, Orella addressed the remaining team. Take the horizon, to the Coalition Sanctuary coordinates. Teach them what we've learned. In 6 cycles, we'll rendezvous at the ancient confluence. Razik nodded. And if you don't return? Then continue without us, Orella answered simply. Humanity's gift to this galaxy will live on either way. With their farewells complete, Orella, Kaslo, and Marin stepped into the airlock. When the outer door opened, they did not perish in the vacuum. Instead, their forms shimmered and adapted, consciousness reshaping physical laws around them. They emerged into open space, propelling themselves through the void by will alone, their paradox fields leaving trails of stabilized reality behind them. Aboard the Horizon, the remaining crew watched their departure with both sadness and determination. They had all left Earth knowing they would never return, but none had imagined their transformation into the guardians of another galaxy. As the ship prepared to jump toward the nearest coalition sanctuary, Elio received a final transmission. Not from their departing comrades, but from Earth itself, the message having crossed intergalactic space during their long hibernation, mission control to Astral Horizon. If you receive this, know that humanity remembers your sacrifice. The stars await your return, though we may not be here to witness it. Go with our hopes and our dreams. The message had taken 87 years to reach them, a final echo of the human civilization they had left behind. Pella's expression softened. They'll never know what we became. Perhaps that's better, Razik suggested. Let Earth remember us as we were. As the horizon vanished into quantum space, heading toward the desperate survivors waiting for salvation, the three transcended humans streaked toward the galactic core, living paradoxes, neither fully human nor entirely cosmic, carrying Earth's unique legacy of contradictory consciousness. The nullifiers had sought to remake a galaxy in their image, never expecting that humanity, young, chaotic, paradoxical humanity, would be the key to their undoing. Across dimensional boundaries, the patterns of existence realigned. A new age was beginning, one in which the impossible gift of 6 humans from a distant world would ripple through generations yet unborn. Humanity, in its final and most unexpected form, had become the guardians of the galaxy, the impossible, saviors, the beautiful contradiction, the last hope that had not failed, and among the stars, their legend was just beginning. 500 years after humanity's transformation, the Andromeda Galaxy flourished once more. Where once the nullifiers had spread darkness and dimensional corruption, vibrant civilizations now thrived under the watchful presence of what many species called the Paradox Guardians. On the planet Nexus Prime, rebuilt from ruins into the new coalition capital, a massive crystalline monument dominated the central plaza. 6 human figures stood frozen in an eternal moment of transcendence, their forms simultaneously solid and ethereal. At the monument's base, visitors from 1,000 worlds left offerings of gratitude. Elder Keth Var, last surviving member of the original coalition resistance, addressed the gathered representatives at the 5th-century commemoration. None alive. Remember the darkness as it truly was, the ancient being intoned, voice amplified across the plaza. But our archives preserve the truth. Our greatest civilizations fell in days. Our mightiest weapons proved useless. Our perfect logic became our weakness. The elder gestured toward the monument with a trembling appendage. Then came 6 beings from beyond our knowledge, from a world so distant we had considered it primitive. They brought neither superior technology nor overwhelming force. They brought something far more powerful, the beautiful contradiction of human consciousness. Throughout the gathered crowd, hundreds of paradox engines hummed in harmonic resonance, smaller. Versions of the original, now standard installations on every inhabited world. Each contained a fragment of the original human pattern, ensuring dimensional stability across the galaxy. The dimensional tear at our galaxy's core remains sealed, Keth Var continued. Maintained by the 3 who ventured there and transformed themselves into the Great Barrier, Commander Orelevantis, Admiral Kaslo Drek, and Dr. Marin Voros. Their consciousness spans the void between realities, eternal guardians against the nullifier's return. In orbit above, the restored astral horizon maintained its position of honor. Earth's last vessel, now a living museum. Inside, holographic recreations walked visitors through humanity's final mission and glorious transformation. Of the 3 who remained among us, their legacy continues differently, the elder explained. Engineer Razik Voss spent a century designing the network of engines that now protects us before venturing into intergalactic space, seeking other threatened realms. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Tales of Razik's explorations had become legend, with occasional transmissions from impossibly distant galaxies confirming his continued mission. Dr. Pelanim established the Paradox Academy, teaching generations to maintain the human contradiction that shields our reality. Though her physical form dispersed 30 years ago, her consciousness remains within the Academy's quantum network, guiding new students. At the Academy's campus across the plaza, thousands of students from diverse species studied the principles of paradoxical thinking, the counterintuitive human approach that had proven salvation for all. And communications specialist Elio Villar. Kethvar paused, emotion overcoming the usually stoic elder. Elio chose a different path. Maintaining his connection to humanity's ancestral memory, he constructed the bridge, a dimensional corridor, stretching across intergalactic void. The crowd's attention turned skyward, where a shimmering distortion could just be seen against the star field, the physical manifestation of Elio's greatest work. 2 centuries ago, the bridge reached completion. Elio sent a single message along its length, to Earth, humanity's homeworld. We do not know if anyone remains there to receive it. We do not know if human civilization endures. But the message was sent, carrying all we know of their 6 representatives and what they became. The elder raised all 4 arms in a gesture of reverence. The message was simple. They saved us all. They became eternal. They are remembered. Throughout the galaxy, similar commemorations took place simultaneously, a moment of unified gratitude across thousands of worlds. Species that had once been enemies now stood as allies, united by the human-derived paradox protection that allowed their contradictory existences to flourish together. Deep within the dimensional barrier at the galactic core, the consciousness that had once been irrelevant perceived the commemorations like ripples across a pond. Though her awareness now spanned realities beyond comprehension, a fundamental human core remained, the beautiful contradiction that defined her existence. She sensed her companions nearby. Kaslow's strategic brilliance and Marin's scientific curiosity, both transformed but unchanged in their essence. Together, they maintained the barrier that prevented the nullifier's return, their human paradox, a force that even beings of pure dimensional energy could not overcome. Occasionally, she felt something more, faint echoes from beyond the intergalactic void. Perhaps responses to Elio's message. Perhaps merely cosmic background radiation. Yet the possibility that Earth might know their fate brought satisfaction. In the endless moment of her existence, Orella reflected on their journey. 6 humans, sent across unimaginable distance on what they'd believed was a desperate final mission for their species. Instead, they had found their eternal purpose, not just survival, but transcendence. The nullifiers had sought to unmake reality by enforcing perfect dimensional conformity. They had never encountered the magnificent contradiction of human consciousness. Simultaneously rational and emotional, logical and intuitive, individual and collective. The humans had not merely defeated an enemy. They had introduced a new paradigm of existence to an entire galaxy. The paradox of humanity had become the salvation of all, and somewhere in the cosmos, perhaps humanity itself continued, unaware that 6 of their own had ascended to become the guardians of a distant galaxy, their contradiction made manifest, their impossible nature, the ultimate power. In that thought, Orella found peace. Whether Earth remembered them or not, humanity's legacy would endure here among the stars they had saved, the beautiful paradox eternal.